Hello, everyone. Welcome. Come right in, get settled in. Welcome to Shine Your Light Masterclass. All right, come on in, everybody. Say aloha. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. We're just getting started. Go ahead and go in the chat and say, hey, let us know where you're from. What brought you here? As most of you know, I am Janelle Anderson, and I am the CEO and owner and founder of Emerging Life Coaching. And I also am an author, just wrote and published my newest book, Take Center Stage, Be the Star of Your Own Story. And so this masterclass is really coming out of that book and what I'm going to be sharing with you today. And I'll also be inviting you to a program I'm launching in June, which is also based on the book, and it's called Shine Your Light Inner Circle. It's going to be a very special program. So during this masterclass, I'll share the details of that with you and invite you to join us. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. And as I said in my emails and my posts and advertising about this class, this is a place for you to come and just be yourself. And I'll be doing the talking. I mean, I'm not going to ask you to like bare your soul and share all your secrets today, but this is going to be an honest and brave conversation about those things that really matter and about those things that we're afraid to talk about. And I'm going to be sharing my story with you in some depth so that you can understand where I'm coming from and why I wrote the book and why I'm offering this masterclass and offering this group coaching program, why I do what I do. Really comes from the things that I've walked through in my life. And I know from my own experience how vital it was for me to have that safe space to dive into those things that I had been avoiding and hiding from for 30 some years and have that safe space to talk it out, to be honest and real and know that I wasn't going to be judged for the past that I had. And that brought me so much freedom and confidence and brought me to where I am today. So now my passion is helping other women to get there as well. And I love what you're sharing. You guys are awesome. You're already being transparent and vulnerable in the chat. That's wonderful. And this is a safe place for you to do that. So get comfortable. And I'm going to just dive in because we don't have a lot of time. And I want to share all this good stuff with you. So Shine Your Light Masterclass. First of all, I don't know if you know this, but 4 out of 5 women say that they are not confident. They don't feel confident with what they are. They don't feel confident with what they do. They don't feel confident in speaking up and being heard and sharing their voice. And that's 4 out of 5. So, you know, how many do we have in here right now, right? So 9 people, 4 out of 5. So two in here would be confident, the rest not so much. I mean, that's the statistics tell us, right? And I found that to be true as I've worked with women in my coaching practice, in my courses, in my mastermind, just friends, in my own research, like that is true. Most of us women do not feel confident. So it really does affect our lives, right? It affects just about everything, whether we realize it or not. It affects whether we go for that promotion or whether we're confident enough to ask for the pay that we really should have. Or if we're entrepreneurs, it affects our confidence to ask for what we're really worth. And we start giving away stuff for free. And it affects our relationships. It keeps us from asking for what we need and for standing up for ourselves and to speaking our truth. It keeps us from pursuing those passions that we so long to pursue because we're not confident in ourselves. And it's truly an inside job. Those messages that come from our inner critic, they hold us hostage, right? They have a stronger grip on us than anything external really ever could. And so that's where I go. I like to go deep and I like to uncover the roots of things because I know what it's done for me in my life. And so that's what this program's all about. That's what today's masterclass is really all about, is helping you to go inside. Your answers will not come from outside of yourself. They won't come from other people. often as women, we look to other people for validation. We look to other people to give us permission to be who we are. We look for others to tell us what we can and cannot do or what's acceptable. We look for that acceptance, don't we? Because we want to be accepted. And that's normal. It's human to want to be accepted and to belong. But when you do this inside work, you'll find that you already know you belong. Once you get there, you'll already know you belong. You have a place at the table, and you won't be looking for that validation all the time from other people to speak to who you are. You'll know who you are. And that puts you in this strong place of confidence. And just like the title of my book, Take Center Stage, it's that confidence to take center stage of your own life as you. Not somebody else, not taking somebody else's place, but taking your place. And this really is an inside job. So I have some questions here. Do you hide your true self? And you may not even know if you are, but if you play small, if you find yourself not speaking up in places where you really want to, or maybe when you're around certain people, you pretend to be happy and everything's fine, or you want to, be who they think you are, that kind of thing. That's hiding your true self. Do you feel unheard and unseen? I know I did for many years. I would speak up, but I felt like nobody was really hearing me. They might have heard the words coming out of my mouth, but they weren't hearing me. They weren't hearing my heart. They weren't appreciating where it was coming from. They weren't taking the time to really listen and appreciate me as a person, and also unseen. We all want to be seen and heard and known because we all have value. We all were created with this value. And when we aren't valued, when we aren't heard and seen and known, we feel less than. And it causes us to diminish our confidence. And it causes us to be quiet, stay in the background. And do you feel unworthy? This was the root for me, was feeling unworthy as a person, because I had so much shame covering me and covering my heart from the things that had happened to me in my past. That was me for such a long time. I was hiding out. I was like peeking out at life from behind this curtain, afraid to play full out, afraid to go out there and be me, afraid I would be rejected, afraid I would be embarrassed, afraid I would fail, afraid that people wouldn't like me. If I told the truth, if I shared who I really was, if I let people get too close to me, then they might find out my past. And then what would they think of me? They might find out who I really am and the things that I had done in my life. And then what would they think of me? So I played small. I had a lot of self-doubt. I hesitated to speak up in meetings, even with friends sometimes, out having dinner with my closest friends. I would a lot of times not speak up what was really on my heart. I'd be nervous. I would dial down my own thoughts and opinions. I would usually kind of try to melt in and blend in with what other people were doing and thinking, pleasing others, comparing myself to others, thinking that I wasn't good enough to be a part of the I didn't pursue the things I really wanted to do. I remember wanting to go after a master's degree in education, but then I kept thinking, well, no, I'm not good enough. I can't do that. And I always had this mentality that I should just, tone it down. I shouldn't go after things. I shouldn't make a lot of money. I should just be the small person. And I didn't realize where it was coming from until I was in my 50s and I began to do this personal inside work and unpack it all. And for me, it was extremely personal. For a lot of people, for everybody, really, it's personal because there's always that inner critic, that story we've told ourselves. And sometimes it might be linked to some past trauma, like in my case, but sometimes maybe just innocent things that were spoken over us when we were young and we believed they were true and they weren't. But for me, it was extremely personal. So I want to share a little bit about my story with you so you can really understand what I'm all about and what this this masterclass is about and what my program is about and what my book is about. So in October of 1972, I was 19 years old, sophomore in college. And one night, my roommate and I were just hanging out. We went out to a local club and playing foosball, chatting with some guys. They were really cute. I remember one of them I had a crush on from afar. He was like a senior, much older, and I always thought he was cute. And he was one of those guys in the group there. And we were just talking and laughing and having a good time. The next thing I remember is waking up in my bed. And this guy, the cute guy that I had a crush on, was on top of me having sex, right? In my mind, well, in that moment, I was very out of it. And I didn't understand what was going on. Everything was kind of like a dream and it was really fuzzy and I just blacked out. So it was a few seconds I came to and I realized that was happening and then I blacked out. And when I woke up in the next morning, there was blood on the sheets and I realized what had happened. I had always wanted to be a virgin when I got married. I had promised myself that's what I would do. As a good Catholic girl, I had planned on that. But here I had lost my virginity in a one-night stand with some guy I didn't even know. That was the story I told myself. It did not occur to me that I had been drugged or raped. Those two thoughts never landed in my heart until 30-some years later. I always thought it was my fault. I must have done something wrong. I put myself in a wrong position. I must have drank too much, smoked too much pot. I did something. I caused it. How could I do that to myself? How could I have let this happen? I was beating myself up. Total shame story, shame storm. And I remember seeing this guy on the campus a few days later. And he walked right by me like I didn't even exist. And that just added more to that story. It added fuel to the fire. That led me down a path for the next several years of really trying to find that validation and love from other people, from anybody, the classic trying to find love in all the wrong places. Because I was so desperate to be validated and to be found worthy of love. I didn't know in my head that's what was going on. I just had this desperate need to be validated by a guy. And so I would just get in all these relationships that were just more of the same. I ended up being passed around the football team for a while. I contracted gonorrhea and didn't realize what had happened. It caused all kinds of scar tissue. It turned out much later that the doctor said I shouldn't have been able to have any kids, but I ended up having a beautiful daughter. She's a miracle. But that's what happened. And then 4 years from that night, and when I was 23, I found myself sitting in a casino in Las Vegas, sitting on a bar stool, all dressed up in this beautiful silky pantsuit, hair done up, makeup done up, just beautiful. And I'm sitting there nursing this drink. And inside, I'm just a bundle of nerves and I feel nauseous. Like I can't do this. But then I look up at the door and I see my boyfriend standing there, watching me, making sure I follow through with his plan. Soon a man comes and sits down next to me, smelling of beer and cigarettes. And he asks me, "Are you working?" Everything inside of me is screaming, "No, don't do this." But I feel trapped. And so I say yes. A part of me just kind of died that day. And I went with this guy. He paid me money. We had sex. I had just become a prostitute. That was the story in my mind. My boyfriend was super happy about this. And for the next 3 years, that's what my life was like. Hundreds of bar stools and casinos and hundreds of men. Doing this intimate act with men I didn't know, didn't have a relationship with. And each time a part of me just disappeared more and more, shut down more and more. And I would go to some other place in my mind. It's called disassociation. I didn't realize at the time that I was being trafficked. I thought it was me. I was doing this. I was this horrible person agreeing to this lifestyle. Everything about how I'd been raised was just fighting against this. And I felt like such a horrible, worthless piece of trash. And I felt like this is it. This is going to be my life. Who is ever going to want me now? I'll never be able to teach school. How could I teach school when I've been a prostitute? In 1980, January, 3 years into this, one night, we had a terrible fight. He had me on the floor and he was choking me. And I called my mom. And out of desperation, this is a picture of me during that time. And that was the story I was telling myself, right? I was a worthless person. I call my mom, weeping, desperate for help. And she prayed with me. She asked me if I would pray with her. And she said, I just feel like Jesus wants you to come home to him and have peace. Well, having been raised a Catholic, I believed in Jesus, but I thought, he's not going to forgive me. I'm this horrible person. But the words home and peace, they were literally like a magnet, and they just drew me. And I was like, yes, I want that. I need that. I want to be home. I want to feel at home again. I want to have peace in my life. I want out of this. So I prayed with my mom that day. And in an instant, something changed. I literally felt a spiritual presence come into me, actually physically into me from the top of my head, and just fill me with this peace and with an amazing strength that now I could resist my boyfriend's demands. I all of a sudden did not have the fear anymore. And I knew that I was done. I was not going to go back out there and sit in another casino and be with another man. I wasn't going to do it. And no matter what he tried, I didn't do it. And a month later, I managed to move back home to Virginia. He tried all the tricks he had to get me to go back out, and I wouldn't do it. So I came back home to Virginia. I was out of that lifestyle, but I was completely shut down, covered with this shame. And I didn't want to tell anybody any of that, from the rape to the trafficking and everything in between. I never said anything to anyone. I never told my parents. I never told anyone. I stuffed it all away, thinking it would just go away. And I started going to church, and I started a new life. But, a year later, I ended up marrying my abuser. Why? Well, who else was going to want me? That was another story. Who was going to want me? I'm ruined. I can't marry another man when I've done what I've done. Who would ever want me? So if I want to get married, I just should marry him. But on my wedding night, it was the worst feeling in the world. I knew I'd made a horrible mistake. I was trapped again. And for the next 6.5 years, I lived with this narcissist who continued to gaslight me, who continued to mentally and emotionally manipulate me. Everything was always my fault. There was something wrong with me. At one point, we were homeless, living in a motel room with just the clothes on our back, because he had decided that, we shouldn't pay our bills. We'll give all our money away, and God's going to drop 100-fold return on us. He took scripture out of context and believed all these weird things. In the midst of all that, I did get pregnant and have my wonderful daughter. And I'll tell you what, she saved me because she was my little buddy. Well, eventually we split up. We divorced when I was 33. And I went back home to Virginia again and was living with my parents and started my life over again. But I was still not free. I was still trapped because of the past traumas and the lies I was believing. And I kept everything quiet for the next 30 years. It was like I was hiding behind a curtain backstage of my own life. I was hiding out back there. Just this curtain was shame and fear. What would people think of me? I couldn't let people get too close. And so it silenced my voice. I didn't speak up much. I agreed with whatever anybody else wanted. I did teach school, but I taught in a small school. I was afraid to go into public school and go bigger. I was afraid because I don't think I can do it. What if people find out my past? And so I lived that way for 30 some years. I got married again. I have a wonderful husband. We've been married 31 years now. He knows about my past. He accepted me and he loved me in spite of it. But I still didn't get the help I needed until I was in my 50s. So I know what it feels like to not have confidence and not feel like you can share your true self, to feel like you don't have a voice, to have that imposter syndrome controlling you, and this inner story that keeps you from walking in confidence and being who you truly are. But I had a wake-up call in 2006. I was 53 years old, sitting in church one day, and my pastor's teaching this teaching called Path of Destiny. And he drew on the marker board this pathway. And he had X's in the middle and he had X's out on the side. And he said, you know what? Each one of us has a destiny. Each one of us has a purpose. We are created in a unique way to fulfill a purpose, to have a destiny. But that doesn't mean that we'll automatically fulfill it. You know, you have a choice. You can choose to go your own way, in whatever way you want. Or you could choose to be on this path that was designed for you and fulfill everything that you were created to do, which brings satisfaction, it brings happiness, it brings confidence, it makes your impact on the world great because you're doing everything that you're designed to do. You could take that path or you could stay on the path that you're on. And I sat there that day thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Am I following the right path? Am I on my path of destiny? And all of us step off of it every now and then. But that was like a wake-up call for me. It was like an alarm went off inside my spirit, like, wake up. What are you doing? And I made a decision. I am going to do everything I can to figure out and to find out what path I should be on and what is my calling? What is my purpose? What do I want to do with the rest of my life? And as I began that search, I ran smack dab into my past, the wall that had been formed, I guess I could say, from my past trauma. And I realized I have to face this. I actually have to do something about this. It didn't go away. I thought it would go away, but it's actually causing me to play small. That's why I keep hesitating. I keep shrinking back in fear. I felt this really strong call to be up in front of the room speaking and teaching and leading. And I knew I was called to it. But on the other hand, the fear of, oh, what will people think of me? What if I fail? What if I sound stupid and dumb and all the stuff, right? And so I was having this tug of war going on. And I'm sitting there in a retreat, this tug of war is going on. And I look down at my Bible open in my lap, and the scripture that just happened to be there jumped off the page at me. And it was, I haven't given you a spirit of fear. And that means shrinking back, timidity, hiding behind that curtain. I haven't given you that. I've given you a spirit of love, power, and a sound mind. And I realized in that moment, like, I could keep playing small or I could deal with what's keeping me hidden behind the curtain. I have a choice. And I chose to take a step out from behind the curtain. And it started with a very small step. And it has continued ever since then. But that led me on this path of finding freedom and doing that inner work, which I have written about in my book. And so what I want to share with you is this STAR process. The STAR process is what I went through. It's my journey through, finally dealing with what was holding me back and unveiling all these things that were hidden away and coming out on center stage of my own life as me. And it's a powerful process. I call it the STAR process because you're becoming the star of your own story. And it's an acronym. And it came to me one day as I was writing my book. I was sitting there and the thought came to me that I feel like I'm taking center stage of my own life for the first time ever. And when I say star, I'm going to stop the share for a second. When I say star, I don't mean like, oh, look at me. I am the star of the show. I am the best person in the world and everybody should look at me because I'm so fabulous. Or like a celebrity, fame and all of that. No, I'm talking about a star. A star is a luminary. It shines with its own light. It does not reflect the light of something else. It has its own source of light. And, you know, the moon reflects the light of the sun, but the sun is a star and it has its own source of light. So I believe that you really cannot shine, truly shine when you're reflecting somebody else's light, but only when you are shining your own light that's within you of who you truly are. And you won't be happy and you won't be fulfilled if you're trying to shine somebody else's light, right? It'll always be a struggle because you'll be trying to do it right. But when you shine your own light, it's not a struggle anymore, right? It's a place of power. It's a place of strength. It's a place of flow. You become brilliant and beautiful, and people are attracted to that because it's you, it's authentic. But you have to shed all the shame stories first because they cover up your light. You know, just like I was saying, I was hiding behind this curtain. And that's what it felt like all my life, like I was hiding. But when I shed all of that and I walked out, I felt like I was walking out on center stage as me, no longer afraid or apologizing or ashamed, but feeling confident in who I am, loving who I am, and now shining brilliantly my light in my life as me. Not taking away from anybody else's light. The stars don't take away from other stars' light. When you shine your light with all of its brilliance, not holding back, you're not taking away from anyone else. They can shine their light, and everyone should shine their light. Imagine this world if everyone was shining that pure, brilliant, beautiful light that's them. One of my favorite quotes comes from Steve Maraboli in his book, Unapologetically You. Great book. He said, there's nothing more rare nor more beautiful than a woman being unapologetically herself, comfortable in her perfect imperfection. To me, that is the pure essence of beauty. So my mission and my passion is to help women be themselves and know that being yourself is so beautiful, and not only knowing it, but embracing it and loving who you are, really loving who you are. Like being able to look at yourself in the mirror and go, I love you. You're beautiful. Have you ever done that? Most women, when they look at themselves in the mirror, they're like, oh, look at the wrinkles, you know, look at the crooked teeth or whatever. Look at the gray hair, look at the saggy chin. But you have to get past all of that because that doesn't matter. It's who you are inside. And if you look at yourself eye to eye, you'll see that light inside. The light, the eyes are the windows to the soul. And look at yourself deeply, eye to eye, and just say, you know, I love you. You are beautiful. To be able to say that and not feel weird and really mean it, that's what I'm talking about. So raise your hand if you want to be the star of your own story and shine your light and have that kind of confidence. Yes. Now you might be thinking, I'm not ready to be the star of my own story because I got a lot of baggage. That's okay, because I'm going to share with you this star process. It's in my book. And if you haven't read my book, definitely go get it. It's on Amazon. And you can download the free star guide when you get the book, or you can buy the paperback copy. But I'm going to quickly go through my star process, and then I want to share with you about the Shine Your Light Inner Circle program. So the star process is the acronym STAR. S is stir up your soul. T is tell the truth. A is accept and activate. And R, release the river. So I want to go through each one of these a little bit, but it's definitely in my book, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on each one. But the S is stirring up your soul. This was started to happen to me in my 50s when I had that wake up call and I'm sitting there in church and in that retreat and I begin to feel this stirring, like what is going on? Where am I in life? It was a wake up. I woke up to my life. A lot of us are sleepwalking. A lot of us are just going through the motions and we're just getting from one weekend to the next weekend. And we're not really intentionally living our lives. We're not even aware of the patterns of thought. We're not aware of what we're saying and doing. We're just sort of like existing instead of thriving. We're just surviving, getting by. This is a wake-up call. And sometimes you have to do this to yourself and begin to ask yourself these questions like, where am I? What do I want to do with my life? Am I living my best life? Who am I? How do I find out? What's holding me back? You begin to ask yourself these questions. And along with that comes giving yourself permission to go ahead and do the work that needs to be done for you to fully live that brilliant life you were meant to live. And it means saying yes to you. And I found that a lot of women struggle with that. They're waiting for permission. But you know what? You're the only one that can really give yourself permission. So saying yes to you means going ahead and doing whatever it is that you need to do to get yourself there, whether it's getting help. Maybe you need therapy, maybe you need a counselor, maybe you need to read a book or take a course or whatever it is for you. Maybe you need to step into my inner circle. You need to do it and say yes to you, to that thing that's in you. Give yourself permission to be who you are. And that's a big thing, actually, that saying yes. It actually took me a whole year from when I realized, I actually have to get some help here and go back and process that past from 30 years ago. Really? It was 30 years ago, but I had never done it. And you have to do it. If you have to process trauma and you have to get it out, because as long as it stays inside, as long as it's a secret, it has power over you. When it's no longer a secret, it doesn't have power over you anymore. And so this process brought me so much freedom, realizing that it's going to, it might be hard. I don't want to feel the pain. I don't want to deal with the emotions, but it's something I have to do if I want to move forward and live my best life. And that desire to be on that path of destiny was so strong, it overpowered my fear of dealing with my past. And I went and I got help. And so that began the T. Tell yourself the truth. This part is the deep dive. And it can take a while. It depends on all the things that you're dealing with. But we tell ourselves stories, right? I told myself lots of stories. I was worthless. I was no good. I had caused those things to happen to me. But telling yourself the truth means being honest with yourself and facing those things that you're afraid to face and getting them out and talking them out. Often that helps a lot, just to talk it through. Look at all the things that you are saying to yourself. Most people are not telling themselves the truth. I sure wasn't. I resisted the idea of unpacking the past and looking at it. I had resisted the idea of talking about it. I didn't want to tell people. I didn't want to relive it. I didn't want to feel it again. But including being imprisoned and kind of really cutting myself off from me, I was also cutting myself off from my destiny and from being vulnerable and transparent and having close relationships. So, especially the relationship with myself. So, being honest with yourself, forgiveness is a huge part of this process. And I have a whole chapter on forgiveness in my book, which it's a big, deep topic. And I won't go into it right now because of time, but it is so important to forgive. And forgiveness is not what most people think it is. And forgiving yourself is one of the biggest, hardest things. That was huge for me too, is forgiving myself for getting into those situations, for allowing those things to happen, for doing them. Forgiving myself for believing the lies that I had all those years, right? So we have those false narratives and those false beliefs that have taken root in our lives. And we need to dig them up, basically. We need to uproot them. And those stories like you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not talented enough, you're not strong enough, you're too old, you're too young, you're too this, you're too that. All those stories are embedded a lot of times in our subconscious. and they diminish us and they keep our real selves hidden away, even from ourselves, because we're believing that they're true, right? So it's not the story, it's your belief that it's true that holds you back. So telling the truth involves seeing your tough times that you've been through and understanding the impact of the past. Owning my story was huge because I had disowned myself from my past. And I had put it in this other category saying, well, that was somebody else. That has no impact on me now. It's like locked away. It's like, I just separated it from me. But the effect of that was that I disconnected from me because I was trying to disown something that actually happened. So I remember sitting there thinking, and I was reading Brene Brown's book on, I don't know which book it was, but she talked about owning your story. You have to own your story or it will own you, basically. And I sat there and said, okay, I guess it's time for me to own it. It did happen. Those things did happen to me. That is a part of my past. And then I began to look and see what are the hidden pearls and gems from that hard time in my life, the suffering that I had gone through. What had it done in me? What good qualities? How had it shaped me for who I am now? And so embracing tough times is a part of this telling the truth, owning your story. Then the next phase is 2 parts, accept. So when you come through the first 2 phases, especially that tell the truth, you come to this place where you begin to accept yourself because you start to see who you really are. And so you're seeing your personality and your strengths and your values and all the things that make you you. And you open up your heart to the possibility that, hey, there's some great things in store for you. There's greatness on the inside of you because you were created in God's image and likeness. So there's gems and jewels, and there's this shining part of you that's real. And so you begin to accept that and love yourself. And when you are doing that, when you're accepting and loving yourself, you will definitely you recognize your talents and strengths, right? You own your achievements, understanding your personality, your experiences, and activating your inner wise woman. When all this is going on, you will naturally begin to step into action. I started doing things that I never thought I would do. I started speaking up. I started feeling confident. I started taking action. And when you take action in your life, things happen, things change, circumstances change. You begin to speak your truth. You begin to express your desires, make a stand for yourself, stand up for yourself, right? Overcome obstacles. You're not afraid to go for things. You believe in yourself. I started taking massive action, building a business, getting out there, advertising myself, marketing myself, building programs, coaching. I mean, all this stuff I was afraid to do before. Speaking. I was terrified to speak. But I started just, like I said, taking center stage. I started taking action. And that's what naturally happens when you shed all the shame stories and you deal with all that stuff and you see the true you and you love that. You love yourself. You're going to take action. There won't be anything holding you back anymore. And you'll start to realize your vision. So that's my STAR process. Oh, wait, R. The R happens after all this, and it's like full release of the power of everything in you. It's like this river of your true self that's flowing with effortless power. Rivers flow. And so I see this as your true self shaping the environment, making a difference in the world, influencing others, speaking into them, impacting the world, because that's what rivers do. Rivers change the environment. They move and they're flowing. And so when you're at this point, you're just in it. You're on that path of destiny. You're fulfilling your mission and nothing's holding you back and you're flowing. It's like this ease, it's just wonderful. Rivers to me are very refreshing, and they can have moments where they're powerful and they're moving rapidly and other moments where they're nice and calm and beautiful and serene. And that happens in your life. You'll fulfill your destiny. So that is the STAR process. And so I want to start sharing with you and just invite you to consider possibly joining me in this new program. The reason that I wrote my book was to get my story out there, but also the STAR process, and to empower women to do this process for themselves. My book, I didn't want my book to just be my story, because my story is kind of, it's a heavy story. And I didn't just want to tell it just for the sake of telling it. I wanted it to empower others. And so that's why I created the STAR process, and that's why I created the workbook that goes with it. But it's pretty much a deep dive. And I've had women tell me like, oh, this is stirring up so much in me, and I want to deal with all this stuff, but I'm having a hard time doing it by myself. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to get a program together where I can help women, directly to unpack this stuff and to go through this process with the help that they need in a safe place where you can let down your guard and you can be real and you don't have to be afraid of judgment. So do you often find yourself stuck in a pattern of negative thinking, negative self-talk? Do you find that past events still negatively impact your life today? Are you constantly comparing yourself to others? Do you find that you often silence your own voice due to fear of rejection or being judged? Do you struggle with fear when it comes to unpacking the past? If you said yes to any of these, then this is the perfect program for you if the timing is right. Because all of these things we can help you process through as we go through the process. And in this program, we'll actually be going through the book and the workbook together, and you'll have that place to share. So it'll be a journey of inner healing, transformation, self-discovery. It's a place to shed all the shame stories and the shackles of the past that keep you hiding and playing small. You finally will have a place where you can talk about things that you can't talk about with anyone else, because we are going to have accountability and we're going to have confidentiality, and everybody's going to sign an agreement that they will keep everything confidential. And we are going to create that safe atmosphere that I had to say whatever you need to say, to cry if you need to cry, to laugh if you need to laugh, and to have somebody guiding you through, like, how do I get past this? How do I let go of this? How do I change my thinking? How do I become the star of my own story? So you're going to receive coaching and guidance and support from me. I'm a professional certified coach, and I've also lived through it. I am not a therapist. I am not a counselor. I'm not a psychologist. I don't do any of that kind of work. Just saying that right now. I'm a coach, and I'm certified and trained, highly trained to do the work that I'm doing. But if people need therapy, I will refer them to that. So what we're creating here is a safe environment to unpack and process the things that hold you back without judgment and at your own pace. But it's not just about unpacking the things and dealing with the past. It's also a place to move forward. It's a place of action. It's a place of, making action plans, moving forward. Let's get going here. Let's let go of the past and keep going. It's a place of transformation and true healing. So you will get in this program 12 weekly live group sessions on Zoom. We're going to meet weekly for 12 weeks straight to build that momentum and that connection. We're going to have an orientation meeting first, and then 12 weekly meetings to follow that. And in those meetings, we're going to have open discussion. Connection will happen with you and the other ladies. You'll gain great insight. It'll be reflection. There'll be some coaching. It's going to be a very powerful, intimate time. The value of just that alone is $29.97. And these values just mean, this is not the price. This just means that's what it would be worth. If you went out and did this separately, all these pieces that I put in here separately, that's what it would cost you. But I'm not charging you that. So just so you know what that means. Complimentary autographed paperback copy of Take Center Stage and the Star Guide Workbook. I will send that to you. And an interactive journey through the STAR process with me, the person that created it. And that's pretty priceless, actually, because a lot of programs you don't ever have direct contact with the person that actually created them. And this is a very special group that's starting this program because it'll be the first group through it. You'll have access to bonus tools and resources. I have plenty of those. and I'll be bringing them into the group. So it's not just the book and the workbook, it's much, much more. And membership in a private support group where you can continually stay in there even beyond the 12 weeks and continue to ask questions, continue to get support, continue to get help. And then I'm adding in a bonus 2-day virtual retreat after the course is over, where we're going to talk about how can you tune into your spiritual senses and hear God's voice, or, the universe, however you look at that. I believe in God, and I know people come from different beliefs, but if you're a spiritual person and you feel a connection to the divine or a connection to something greater, there's a way to tune into that and hear for yourself and be guided. And so I'm going to be offering a 2-day retreat on that and how I learned how to do it. And I know people do it differently, but basically it's tuning into that spiritual part of yourself. And so I'm throwing that in as a bonus because a lot of this work comes from really being able to tune into that. It's a spiritual kind of work because we are spirit beings. We are a soul. We are a soul. We have a spirit, and we live inside a body. And a lot of times we neglect the spiritual side. But if you have to access all of you in order to do this work. And if you haven't guessed by now, I'm very spiritual. So anyway, here's my book. You'll get a copy of that along with the workbook, and we'll be going through it together each week. We'll be on a different chapter, and we'll be working through those exercises and talking through them. So the total value of this entire program is over $7,000 with all those values. But of course, I'm not charging you that. So normally for this program, the regular investment would be $19.97. That's what I would normally charge and what I will be charging going forward. But now I'm offering a special, it's a beta group. It's for the first group going through. It's a special offer. And that is a limited time only, like I said, for $14.97. Now you can make payments. You can do 2 payments. You could do 3 payments. There's also longer payment plans available. So if you get in here and you start coming to the meetings and digging into this and you're like, no, this isn't for me. I can't do it. This isn't working. And we'll have a conversation about it. You do have to show up and take part in the program. But if you just feel like it's not working for you, I'm going to give you your money back within the first 30 days so that there really isn't a risk. You can try it out. Okay. I don't want to keep your money if you don't want me to have it, basically. But beyond the 30 days, I don't refund any money because by then I've invested and it's costing me money as I invest in you and in the things I bring to you. So I want you to think about this. Like, this program is for you if you want to finally break free from past events that are holding you back. If you know that's you. You want to experience true transformation and inner healing. You want to be immersed in a supportive community where you will be accepted, heard, seen, valued. That's so priceless. You want to shed the self-doubt, the guilt, and the shame for good and be whole, confident, and free. You want to know your God-given purpose and have a plan to walk your path of destiny, whatever that looks like for you. So what you're going to get is these 12 weekly sessions. I'm going through this again, reminding you, you're going to get the book, autographed paperback copy. You're going to have an interactive journey through the STAR process with the one who created it, me. Access to bonus tools, resources, membership in a private support group that's ongoing, and the bonus 2-day virtual retreat. So you cannot join it today, actually, because I'm not taking any money. But what I want you to do, if you really feel like this is for you and you just aren't sure or you are sure, either way, I want you to apply. It doesn't cost anything to apply. You'll fill out an application. I'm going to give you a link here in just a moment. And then I will contact you and we'll schedule a one-on-one where we'll get on a call. And I want to make sure that you are a right fit for this program and that this program is right for you. I don't want anybody joining this program if it is not the right time and it is not the right program and you don't feel a complete, total, yes, I'm in. Because then it wouldn't do you any good at all, right? If you get into a program and you're like, well, I don't know, and I'm not comfortable with it, then I'm not going to accept you into the program. If it isn't a definite yes, and like, this is what I need going forward, then we'll just have a nice conversation. But if it is, then we will decide, what kind of payment plan you need. We'll get you all set up and ready to go. So I want to have that call first. And the way that you get to that is to fill out the application. So if you think in any way that this might be for you, and even if you're not sure, go ahead and fill out the application. It doesn't cost you anything. And here's the link. That's all there is to it. You'll just fill out an application. It doesn't cost you a thing, and we'll talk about it and see if it's for you. There are other things I offer. If this isn't right for you, I encourage you to join my Facebook group, Women Emerging Fearlessly. I have a podcast of the same name. You can email me, check out my website. So I want to stop here and see if anyone has any questions. Anybody have any questions about the STAR process or anything else I shared today? And I hope that it was encouraging to you. I hope you got something out of it from my own story, and any questions that you want to ask about that.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to say thank you so much, Janelle, for your story and just your willingness to be so vulnerable and open. And it's so empowering to hear someone tell their story and share it with such, I guess I want to say, a lack of shame, and a lack of apologizing. That's what it is. Apologetic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And like I said, it took me a really long time to get there. Get here.
Provides so much hope for other people, though. It's really powerful. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to say, if I can do it, you can do it. And I carried a load of it. You heard my story, right? And that isn't even the entire story, but
I get that.
Those are the highlights. Yeah. We all have stories. No matter what it is, it's your story and it matters, right? So freedom can be yours too. And I appreciate you saying that. And I would love to see everybody in that place, because if everyone was shining their light without shame and apology, it would be amazing. So thanks for sharing. Well, I hope that you all feel empowered, even if if the program's not right for you right now. Please stay in touch anyway. And if it is, please go fill out that application so we can have a chat about it. This first group is going to be, like I said, the founding members, the start of the whole program. I envision this growing and becoming a community. And when you go through the actual 12 weeks, then you'll be a permanent part of the community if you want to be, and you will be the ones that help me bring in the new women, and eventually you'll be mentoring and helping if that's something that you want to do. So I see this growing as a community of women that have become free and are able to pour into others, just like Dana said about me, like the whole community of women being able to do that with new women coming in. So I don't see this as just a temporary thing. I see this as a growing program and a growing community of women that are empowered and are empowering others. So I look at it as a long-term thing here, and women empowering women. And when you are free and you've walked through your stuff and you're sharing it, it gives people that are struggling, it gives other people that permission to, and that hope, like Dana said, to know that, oh, I can do this too. And that's what really helped me, because I was in a church that didn't mind getting messy, and they didn't mind you getting real. And a lot of churches aren't like that, but this church was like this. And I saw other women totally free and totally honest and vulnerable and empowered and confident. And I was like, I want to be like that. And so that's what I envision this becoming. It's called Shine Your Light, because I want to keep the focus on the light and on the hope and on the future, and not on the past. We want to let those things go. Those things that happened to us in the past don't define who we are. They're just things that happen to us, but we do have to be honest with them and unpack them and look at them, and then, let's let them go. So Mary asked, what date are we shooting for? Good question. So I'm shooting for June, and hopefully that will work for people. Each session will be recorded, Yeah, June 23rd at 12:30 Eastern time, like 12:30 to 2. It'll be every Thursday for 12 weeks, starting with, well, actually 13 weeks, because we'll have our orientation, kind of get to know each other time on the 23rd. And then it goes into September, I think. If you know of anyone else, please tell them to get in contact with me. I can send them the recording of this masterclass, or I can talk with them. Like I said, I want to meet with each one and make sure it's a good fit. I don't want a huge group because it's hard to be intimate with a huge group. No more than, 6 to 10, I'm thinking, because we could pair off and have, accountability buddies and that kind of thing. So I'm kind of handpicking and personally inviting and making sure everybody's good to go. So thank you for listening. And I'm really excited to start working with the first group of ladies going through Shine Your Light. It's going to be amazing to see you shine your light and to walk into this place of, taking center stage of your own life. Thank you for coming. I really loved having this time with you, and I hope you have a beautiful day. If anybody else has a question, now's the time to ask. Aloha, Dana, and aloha, Margaret. I see aloha on her screen. Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.